This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, wonderful. Raise your hand if you are over dating. If you feel like, oh my gosh, if I have to go through another profile or this person's a jerk, I just feel like this is a struggle, struggle, struggle. Well, I have the guest for you today. This is Lilli Bewley, and she helps people who are single and struggling find epic love. Hello, Lilli. How are you?
Hello, my love. I am so happy to be here. I am really, really well. Thank you.
Oh, yes. And so let's talk about dating. And you,
Yeah. And yeah, don't turn it off yet, guys. Just stick with us.
you can be not miserable. No, you've got some frameworks around making it a little more easy to understand and digest. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I do. And I love what you said at the beginning. I just want to put this here that swiping burnout is a thing. So, I feel you. You women that are out there on the apps, swiping burnout is absolutely a thing. Going through what I call the delete and download cycle is a thing. Confusion and frustration and telling your friends and your family and yourself that dating is hard is a thing. So you're in the right place for sure.
And so how can you help us in that place?
Yeah.
Yes, you're an expert for a reason.
Oh my gosh. So, again, how many hours do we have? It's there's so much with dating and love. There's so much transition, I think, just as a society, as women. I work with women who are in 30s and 40s, maybe their second or third chance at love. They don't want to repeat the same patterns of the past. Or women who have been single forever because they've been focusing on growth in other areas, professionally, for example. So it's such a big thing that people don't talk about, really. And I think one of my biggest values, and I know that you're on board with me with this, is that to talk about the things that people don't talk about. And all of this awareness, growth, knowledge, and now that I teach, after hundreds and hundreds of hours of coaching women and helping them find epic love, I've realized that there's a pattern actually and a system to get to this place. And I know you're systems oriented. We are like so much on the same level when it comes to how we operate. And what I found is this process of coming up from, like we said, single and struggling to epic love in 5 months, actually, which is amazing for me to say. It's not a snap your fingers type of thing situation, but it is a way for us to find ourselves again, to stop self-sabotaging, to actually stop sacrificing ourselves and actually have fulfillment in our lives in every area.
Can you stop right there because I want to repeat.
Yeah,
okay?
absolutely.
And I hit the little rewind too, because I know that when you're on the other side, it's like, well, which app should I use? Like, and I make a joke that it's like, oh yeah, all the good guys, there's like a government census. And so all the really good guys, they meet at Starbucks every day at Thursday, in Manhattan. And, that's how you find a good guy, right? And we kind of laugh, but it's like also sad, because it can be very disparaging, to be in that burnout stage. So I want to really go clearly. You talked about reconnecting with yourself. You talked about not self-sabotaging. And I just want everyone to hear that, because what people are saying is, which app do I need to be on?
Yes.
How does my haircut need to look like in the profile picture? And, what should I say? And should I look for, just interested, or looking for a long-term relationship, or looking for marriage, as if that's the key. And
Yes.
on the other side, when you're seeing all these patterns, we're saying like, this is the key. And so can you define what
Right,
that
yeah. Right,
yeah.
that's it. I mean, I'm done. Bye. No, but you're right that there's no tip, there's no strategy, there's no hack to, if you desire, I'm not going to place this desire on you if you're listening, right? But it's a desire that I have, and it's a desire that I want other women to claim, which is like epic, magnetic, extraordinary love is possible. The issue that I see most right now is what you're talking about, which is there's so much information out there. You can go to Google, you can go to your friends and your family, you can go to Instagram, you can, all of the things, try to check the boxes. There is no tips, strategy, hack, or anything like that that is going to get you to this place of epic love without taking a look at your patterns. Again, like Sarah, you hit it on the head. And it's difficult when we have a lot of knowledge. We know that we need more self-love. We know that we are worthy. We know, maybe even we know our attachment style, for example. But when we can't move from what we know to how we behave, what we accept, what our actions are, our thoughts and feelings and behaviors, then that is a massive gap that starts to feel like the size of the Grand Canyon after you repeat it again and again and again, after you are attracted to emotionally unavailable men again and again and again. If you sleep with someone too quickly, even though you say you're okay with it when you're really not, I'll call you out on that because I was that woman. If it's a behavior that's happening again and again and again, the tips, strategies, hacks, all of that stuff. When people ask me for that, I basically say no, because it's not going to serve you. Right.
People said they have red flags. They're like, oh yeah, so what red flag should I avoid? And I'm like,
no.
Baby doll, I wish it were that easy. Like I swear to you, because if you listed a list, and I use something called the 13-year-old guru method.
Okay. I know we talked about this. Oh, I love it. Go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah. So I had a girl, or she's not a girl. I mean, she's a grown-up woman, and she was talking about, she was dating this guy, and she said, I don't know if he's good or not. And I said, what's the one thing you don't want to tell me? She immediately said, he disappears for days at a time. And I said, okay, let's run it through the 13-year-old guru test. A 13-year-old, and I said, hey, is it a problem that he disappears and doesn't text for days? Does a 13-year-old see that as the problem? And she's like, yeah. I said, so it's not an information problem. Right. It's not you don't need another article on it. You don't need another article on, I had Logan Ury, the author of How to Not Die Alone. And one of the things in her book is that black and white profile pictures do better than, because they're unusual. They don't expect to see a black and white picture. So if your first picture is black and white, it's actually the algorithms that promote that. Is that enough to get you love? No.
Yeah. Yeah. That scares me. Even that just scares me, right? Because oh, so much. Like there's so much there, right? It's like this whole thing of looking for a magic pill. It's this whole thing of, what if I contort myself to be the next best thing? What if you know what I'm saying? Like there's so much in that that's scary to me, honestly. And I know that you see this probably with your peers and your colleagues and stuff. And I honestly think that like those tips, tricks, hacks, they're dangerous. They're dangerous. It's dangerous because how many times did we grow up and people told us what to do and we did it? How many times did we go through and take a path that people told us that we needed to take and we did it? And what that did for me was took me away from myself. It took me away from the choices. It took me away from choices that I would make really for me, but I was making them for other people. Right. And it's the same way with dating. And you compound, like, we were talking on Facebook the other day about Disney, and compounding all of these other, types of influences, whether that be about body image, maybe that like about what you should look like. So many women are only ready to date when they're ready, which is amazing. Like, I'm not going to call you out, but what is it about, like what you're saying, that like, what filter are you passing that through? Are you passing that through of, I got to get ready so I'm enough? Because that part of you isn't going to feel enough until like there are inner parts of us that need to heal, right? Go ahead.
This she's like a corporate coach. She's not in dating at all, but she said that her shirts are like #ready, which is awesome in some ways, but I wore it out without my husband, and everyone thought I was like picking up men, like #ready. I was like, no, this is not. And my husband was like, did you wear that shirt out? And I was like, oh, I didn't even think about it. I mean, here I am all these years later, the toxic person proof, I'm still doing something that naive and ridiculous. But I was like, no, that's not what it means. But it was like ready as a mindset, and she trains people on, ready as a mindset. Like I am someone who's ready for new challenges. I am someone who's ready for something. I am someone who's ready to put myself out there rather than ready as a feeling.
Yes. I would say too, I would add to that and filter that through what I do. My lens is, are you ready for there to be a better way? And that's it. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because if we're single and struggling, like you're going back to the patterns, right? Patterns are something that happens 3 or more times, whatever that is for somebody that's listening. And hold that whole Einstein quote of, trying something again and again the same way with the same result is a definition of insanity. And it's the same thing when it comes to dating.
Mm-hmm.
The new kind of information, and I know that you're so on board with this, is the new information out there is that it's not really about mindset. It's not about your thoughts anymore. You can write in your journal, you can write out the qualities that you want in a partner. You can write a letter to your soulmate. You can, do all of the things, but doing is different than who you choose. Toxic person proof / dating up in here, right? Like, right. So this is like a great, like, culmination of both of our works, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and what we know now is that if we have thoughts, again, thoughts, behaviors, and actions don't come from our mind. And this is new research, like this is neuroscience that's come out the last 5 or 10 years. And what we know now is that they actually come from a root cause part of us in our body. So here's the good news. The good news about that is that your patterns aren't you. Your patterns are really just a part of you that is helping you stay safe. You're picking people. Like people say, I have a bad picker. You are not picking, my love. You are not picking. A part of you is picking. So the good news is that you do have the power to change, to be ready for there to be a better way, even though you may not know what that is. I mean, there is a better way by working with me. It doesn't have to be me. It could be somebody else. It could be working with Sarah, right? So, yeah, so important.
I'm going to ask you the most annoying question ever, which someone asked me on the phone this like Wednesday, and they were like, how do you do that?
Do it.
And I was like, oh my word, love. Like, she was like, oh, I've had toxic relationships. I've had this and this. And I was like, this is possible. She's like, how? And I was like, well, maybe it's not like, a 3-sentence answer. So, and I know in the context of a podcast, that is not a solvable problem. But in the first steps, if someone's looking for the first step to take, what advice do you have in people changing that dynamic?
Yeah, I think we've gone through 3 important points, which I'll say again, which is there is always a better way. And I learned this, I don't think we have time for my story. Maybe, we can come back and have a conversation, but I learned there was a better way with a gun in my hand. That was my story. Right. And I didn't know what that was. And it doesn't have to be that for you, but the frustration and the confusion and dating sucks. There is actually a better way. Right. So that's the first point. The second point, your patterns aren't you, right? It's just a part of you. The third thing to say is that you're going to love this. The third thing to say is it's not about what you do. It's about who you choose. So the question then becomes, well, Lilli, how do I choose that person? And that's the question, right? My answer to that is you heal the root cause of that part of you that is choosing, right? And that's how you find epic, magnetic soulmate love. People talk about like, it's all the information out there is so good. It's so good, but the labels don't help either. Like, oh, I've done my abandonment wound work. Oh, I've done my mother wound work. Oh, I've done my father wound work. But if you're still attracting, like if you're still attracting people like Kanye or something like that, like talk about toxic person, if you're used to, like people, I have these archetypes. I don't think we're gonna have enough time, or we may, to get into, but one of the archetypes is the goddess woman. And the goddess woman is really into personal growth work. She's into personal development. She knows what she's doing wrong. She can diagnose herself. She knows her attachment style. She can diagnose the other person. She knows, like, she's really smart. She's got it all figured out. She's written out all those qualities, written a letter to her soulmate. But there's a disconnect again between what she knows and what she's attracting. And like going back to the toxic perfect person proof stuff is that, Kanye, he checks off all the boxes. He's successful, he's rich, he's all this, done all these things. But would you want to be in a relationship with him, ladies? No, right? Well, I wouldn't. By Sarah's face, I'm saying that she wouldn't either, right? So that's the idea. The idea is that not that something's wrong with you, but there's just a part of you that is accepting these people with your time, your energy, your love, and your heart, your openness, when it's more than like knowing what a red flag is in your head, but it's about knowing it in your body. Not immediately, but a lot damn quicker than you would before. It's like an inner knowing. That's not judgy. It's just discerning.
And discernment is the word. I think you and I grew up pretty similar. And discernment is the word that I was not taught, right? And it was like, oh, give people the benefit of the doubt, some of these things, and just missing that, because they're like, oh, you're being judgmental, or you're being that. Like, it's just like, man, discerning is like how we keep ourselves safe, and that is such a word not taught to females, I'm going to say in particular. And
yeah,
also,
we go ahead.
I also love that you use that example, because people are like, oh, I need to work on my confidence or self, affirmations, or, I'll say, what's your healing strategy? Like, I'm exercising. I'm like, okay, that's really good that you should exercise. I actually need to exercise today. But, I was like, you give me some, some statistics on that. People who exercise are less likely to end up in bad relationships than people who don't exercise. And they laugh. And I'm like, it's not funny. This is your life. It's not a joke. Like, I get that you got caught, right? And they feel like caught, I'm like, I'm not trying to catch you. Like, if you were comfortable with the answer you were giving, you would have given me a different answer. I just want to point out that there's not statistics around that. So it's probably not going to get you where you were hoping to go.
Yeah. And I would add to that too, like, if you think what you need and you're still not getting the results that you want, then there's something there. There is something there. It's like, we all have heard this before. And again, like, it's a progression, right? Like, it's knowing the attachment styles, figuring that out, knowing that it's all over Instagram. In order to get more love, you have to love yourself. Awesome. But what's happening is that self-love is turned into something we try to buy off the shelf. Self-love is turning into, and no bashing this, but like a bath or getting your nails done. Dope. But if you are seeing the same patterns again and again, there's something, it's missing. And that going back to your question about the how is the root cause. Healing the root cause, whether you know what it is or not, it comes, it's there. It just is. So yeah.
And really, I think people just really want to bypass the finding happiness within yourself. and I posted a picture of me 7 years ago in the midst of my divorce, and I
Mm,
see it online. I just looked
I didn't.
horrific. Oh my gosh, you should go back and
I
look, because
will.
it's like, it's like I'm aging backwards. I mean, that was
Yeah.
nearly, it was just, there was no, oh, that was just terrible, and I talked about it, and I sent it out to my email list and that kind of thing, because it was like, look, this is where I was and this is where I am now. Because I think it's easy to see me on this side and be like, oh, well, she's happily married. Oh, well,
Yep.
this is all out for her, right? And it's like, yeah, but I didn't start here, and I didn't have a fairy
Yes.
godmother.
Yes. Yes.
What?
This is what gets me, I think, the most in the coaching industry right now, and is the lack of discussion about what happens between, like, in the messy middle between.
I read an article on that I sent to someone today.
Oh,
Yes,
hell yeah. That's awesome.
even if it's not as good, I'll send it to you, Lily.
Yeah.
But no, I wrote it in the middle of my middle. And I will say this, I didn't publish it. I wasn't brave enough to publish it in the middle of my, right? I don't know if that's good, bad. I'm okay with it. There's other pieces that I've walked people through the process. I'm walking people through the process of my messy middle with this book and, some different things. But at the time it was terrifying, and it's okay. But I agree with you. And it's really, and I say this from a place of happiness. Like, it's easy for me now to go back and like, it all worked out. And this is what I did.
And I think where our value lies, you and I, is to get people to the place where we know is possible because we have experienced it quicker and with less pain. Right? Are we the same person? I feel like we're the same
person. And that's where it's just like, man, you can make it as hard as you want to. You get to make it as hard as you want to. But I mean, there was this woman today, and she enrolled in my program, and she was saying, I just feel bad I can't do it on my own. I was like, I don't know anybody who did it on their own.
Yeah.
The better I get, the more people I hire. Is the honest answer. It's like, now it's like, I don't want to deal with this. Who can help me with this problem? I want to get there quicker. I want to get there faster. There's a multitude of people, and it's like, there's such a grace and humility of saying, like, I'm not an expert in everything. And the people who are acting like they're experts in everything, you can read about them in my book. They're not good people, right? And it's like, why do we, and I think that's the toxic leftover. Like, you should be able to do this on your own. You should be better. You should be, and it's like, you know what? I'm not good at everything, and I'm okay with that. I am so okay with that. And but where there are gaps, I can either choose to pretend, I could either choose to ignore, or I could either choose to find someone who is an expert in that.
Yeah. And when it comes to dating and relationship, either you're going to learn this the lesson will continue to present itself, until that it is healed, or
and I'm not trying to be ugly.
What did you say? I missed it.
You die. And I'm not trying to be ugly.
No, I mean,
we don't have infinite amount of time.
That is where that my first kind of big aha moment came, was when, it was the place of like, all right, well, if this is it, I ain't here for it. So I'm going to leave. And, or it's like, spiritual death, psychological death, mental, and I'm here to say that I don't want people to have these roommate loves. I don't want people to have these, these roommate situations. And even though that's maybe something that we've been modeled, it's not our fault. It is not our fault, right? It's not our fault, but we do have the ability to make choice and change.
And we are the first generation of adults in the information age. The aspect of forgiving our parents and some of that, it's like, they literally didn't have the internet. I mean, they couldn't Google all these articles. They had to wait for the Good Housekeeping or the Reader's Digest to come once a week or once a month and like read through that. They literally did not have it. And now that we know better, we can do better.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love, absolutely. 100%. It's not, and like all the influences, the Disney, the everything, it's completely possible. We really just have to elect again to open up to a better way. Like that would be my very first thing. That would be my tip and trick is, are you open to a better way, and see what comes? You know, are you open to, maybe it's guidance, maybe it's not. There are a lot of people out there, you know, they ain't me, but there are a lot of people out there like me, you know, like Sarah, you're an amazing teacher. But if you're open up to a better way without doing it on your own, the results are going to be there for sure.
Where can people find out more about working with you?
Yeah. Oh, I love you so much. Well, I have a free gift. If may I share?
Absolutely can share.
Yay.
Yes.
Well, so I created this workbook called The Love Method for Finding Epic Love. It's a workbook. It's a downloadable workbook. It's $197 value. And it's exclusive. I don't offer it to anyone else. I don't offer it to anyone on Instagram or anything like that, other than people that are listening right now. So your listeners are more than welcome to come over to findepiclove.com and download that. And all of my connection pieces are from that webpage. So findepiclove.com, and that'll get you started. You know, it'll take you down the system that I went through to get to where I am today, which is my goal is to be the magnetic woman, just to be that vibe where that discernment, right? That fulfillment, that welcomeness and openness to everything that we desire, you know, and that we deserve. And love is just, that's my thing. It makes me giggle and makes me so happy. So
what's that Moulin Rouge? Love is a many splendid thing. Love lifts us up where we fall.
Yes.
Love.
Yes.
Which I love. That's like the whole Disney thing that we were like talking about, the Disney princess.
Oh man, it's a thing.
It's not so bad to have it. It is not so bad to have it. Lilli, thank you so much for coming. Check out the show notes for her links and her information and finding out more about working with her. And Lilli, thank you for helping us become toxic person proof.
Yes.